Eddard Stark stood in the chambers of the Hand, looking out over the city of King's Landing. The sun was setting, casting a golden haze across the rooftops, but Ned's mind was far from peace. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was surrounded by lies. This city thrived on secrets, and it was choking him. That evening, he received a message anonymous, sealed in plain wax. Inside was a single sentence written in rough ink. Pettier Baelish cannot be trusted. Ask Seer Hugh's squire. Curious and cautious, Ned followed the lead in silence. He found the young squire, a boy barely 16, cleaning armor near the tawny grounds. With gentle words and a heavy presence, Ned asked what he knew. The boy's hands shook. Seer Hugh met with Lord Baelish 2 nights before he died. They argued. He said. Littlefinger promised him something, money or a title. But then he warned him not to speak, said it was dangerous. That night Ned's sleep was broken. What had he been blind to? Pettier had helped him investigate Jon Arryn's death, but perhaps he had only shown what he wanted Ned to see. The pieces began to shift in Ned's mind. He recalled how quickly Littlefinger had shown him the brothel, how confidently he named the last places Jon visited, almost as if he'd been following Jon himself. Ned called on Jory Castle and sent him to follow Littlefinger quietly. Within 2 days, Jory returned with troubling news. He met with Lannister guards in secret, exchanged something in a sealed pouch, and then he spoke with Queen Cersei. The final thread snapped. Ned realized Littlefinger had been playing, both sides helping him just enough to keep him close, while feeding his enemies the right information to trap him. Instead of confronting Baelish outright, Ned made a plan. He summoned Renly Baratheon under the cover of night. I have proof now, he told Renly. Littlefinger betrayed me. He's working with the Lannisters. Renly's face darkened. Then we must move quickly. The king is still alive. If we act now, we may save your head and Robert's life. Ned nodded grimly. Then we move at dawn. But in King's Landing, nothing was ever simple. Someone was always listening. Dawn broke over the city like a blade of fire. Ned Stark's men were already moving in the shadows, carrying steel under their cloaks and watching every alley that led to the Red Keep. Ned himself stood in the corridors outside King Robert's chambers, waiting for Renly. Time was slipping through his fingers like snow in spring. Renly arrived with a dozen loyal knights, all armored and grim-faced. We must act now, he said. Robert is still breathing, but the Queen will not wait. Ned pushed open the doors to the king's chamber and entered. Robert Baratheon lay unconscious, pale as milk, a sheen of sweat on his brow. The boar wound had festered. But for a brief moment, his eyes fluttered open. He saw Ned, old friend. Robert muttered, "Protect my children." Ned's face darkened. "I will, but I must tell you, your children are not yours. Cersei has lied to you." But Robert was already slipping back into sleep. It didn't matter now. Ned turned to Renly and nodded. "Bring Sir Baester. Bring the small council. We'll write the royal decree now, before she moves." They were almost ready when the trap was sprung. Littlefinger came to the council chambers wearing that usual smirk, flanked by 2 gold cloaks. "My lord," he said smoothly, "is it true you are rushing to place your own hand on the throne before the king is cold?" Ned narrowed his eyes. "The king named me Lord Protector. I have witnesses, and you're under suspicion of treason." Littlefinger laughed softly, shaking his head. "Oh, Ned, you still don't understand how the game is played. Truth has no power here, only allies. But this time, Ned was ready. He raised his hand, and at once, Jory Castle and a squad of Northmen surged forward. They seized Littlefinger, wrenching his dagger away and pinning him to the wall. For the first time, fear flickered in Baelish's eyes. "You're finished," Ned said. "Your lies end today." Renly stepped forward. "The gold cloaks will take you to the dungeons. If you resist, you'll die here." Littlefinger's smile faded completely. "You think I'm the only one," he hissed. "You think she'll let you live, even if I fall." But no one listened. He was dragged out, hissing like a snake caught in a trap. By midday, the city was trembling. Rumors spread, fast Littlefinger imprisoned, Ned Stark taking control, the Queen silent and unseen. Cersei had not made a move yet, and that worried Ned most of all. He sat alone in the council room, fingers drumming the wood. He had won a battle, yes, but not the war. He knew Cersei Lannister. She would not kneel. She would not forgive. And somewhere deep in the Red Keep, she was already preparing her next move. In the heart of the Red Keep, Queen Cersei stood before a burning hearth, her green eyes locked on the flames. Her hands gripped a letter Ned Stark's decree, naming himself protector of the realm. Her lips twisted into a sneer. "He's made his move," she said coldly to Jaime, who stood nearby, armored but tense. "And he's taken Baelish." That fool underestimated the wolf. Jaime paced, frustrated. "We should strike now. Take the throne room, seize the king's seal, and remove Ned Stark's head before the sun sets." Cersei shook her head slowly. "No, that's what he expects. We'll wait. We still hold the boy. My son is still king, in name if not yet in law. But Renly, he'll move against us. Then we kill two birds with one sword." By nightfall, chaos rippled through King's Landing. Cersei summoned Seer Moran Trant and a handful of loyal Lannister guards. She gave one order: take Tommen and Myrcella and flee to Casterly Rock. If I fall, they must live. If I rise, they'll return. Meanwhile, Ned was growing uneasy. News had not come from Renly in hours. Something felt wrong. He sent a raven to Stannis, another to Riverrun. The wolves were circling, and winter felt close, even in the southern heat. That same night, Renly Baratheon's men were ambushed near the stables. Not by soldiers, but cloaked assassins. Only 3 survived, bloodied and terrified, returning to tell Ned the truth. "Seer Loras is dead," one said, shaking. "They poisoned his horse, then slit his throat while he fell. It was no random attack. They wanted him silenced." Ned's heart sank. Cersei had struck first, and then came the message that shattered any hope of peace. Robert Baratheon was dead. It was Varys who delivered the news, pale and shaken. He passed quietly, shortly after midnight. The maesters say the fever took him. Ned knew better. The fever was not natural. Not when Cersei had been silent. Not when Baelish had been removed. Renly was gone. Robert was gone. And now Joffrey would be king. But the court had already changed. Cersei returned to the throne room at dawn, Joffrey at her side, flanked by Lannister guards in full armor. She wore black not mourning, but Power.Ned arrived with his Northmen and the letter bearing Robert's seal. The hall fell silent as he stepped forward and spoke clearly. "The king, Robert Baratheon, named me protector of the realm. Until the rightful heir Stannis Baratheon takes the throne." Cersei's laughter echoed off the walls. "You speak of traitors as if they are kings, Lord Stark. The realm will not follow Stannis. They already follow my son. And then Joffrey, boy king in golden silk, stood and screamed, "Seize him." But nothing happened, because this time Ned had moved first. The gold cloaks turned on the Lannister guards. Northmen surged forward, and Joffrey, stunned, was pulled back by his mother as chaos erupted in the throne room. Ned didn't seize the throne. He didn't want it. He wanted justice, but he was learning that justice in King's Landing came not from truth, but from blood. Steel clashed against steel in the throne room. Screams echoed off the high stone walls. The Lannister guards, though outnumbered, fought like cornered lions. One gold cloak fell. Another screamed as a Northman's sword split his side. But it wasn't a battle, it was a statement. Ned Stark was no longer a guest in the capital. He was a threat, and he was taking control. Cersei clutched Joffrey and retreated through a side passage, with Seer Marin guarding her back. Blood splattered her dress, and her eyes burned with hatred. She had miscalculated. She had assumed Ned was too honorable, too slow. But she had pushed him too far. In the aftermath, Ned stood over the Iron Throne not to claim it, but to steady himself. His face was pale, his eyes shadowed. Renly was dead. Robert was gone. Joffrey was a false king, and Cersei a snake. The crown felt cursed. He ordered the throne room sealed and had the Lannister dead stripped of armor and burned. The message was clear. No more games, no more whispers. War was already breathing down their necks. Later that day, he met with Seer Barristan Selmy and Grand Maester Pycelle. "We will announce the truth," Ned said firmly. "Stannis is Robert's true heir. The realm must hear it." Pycelle hesitated. "Lord Stannis is... stern, unforgiving. The small folk may not accept him." Ned's voice was cold. "He is the rightful king. What they accept is not my concern. What is true is." But he knew the price of truth. By naming Stannis, Ned had declared war on House Lannister, and they would not sit idle. Ravens were sent across the realm, letters signed in Stark ink, sealed with the direwolf's head. To Stannis on Dragonstone, to Riverrun, to the Vale, to the north, Sansa cried when she heard Joffrey was no longer. King Arya watched her sister with disgust. "You still love him?" Arya asked, voice hard. Sansa sobbed. "He's the prince." He said, "He loved me." Arya spat. "He's a monster, like his mother." Ned watched them, and for the first time, truly understood how deep the Lannisters had sunk their claws into his family. That night, he spoke with Varys. "What will Cersei do now?" Varys looked tired. "She will run, or she will burn this city to the ground. There is no middle for lions backed into corners." The next day, news came like wildfire. Tywin Lannister had called his banners. 40,000 men marching from Casterly Rock. The war had begun, and while King's Landing braced for fire and steel, far to the east, a dragon stirred in the ruins of another kingdom. But here, in the heart of Westeros, Eddard Stark prepared not for rule, but for survival. The streets of King's Landing were tense, lined with guards and whispering mouths. Rumors spread faster than Fire Ned Stark had taken the throne room. The Queen had vanished, and the boy king was locked away in the Red Keep's tower under Stark guard. Small folk dared not speak Joffrey's name too loud. Unsure whether he was still king or prisoner, Ned sat in council chambers with Seer Barristan, Varys, and Maester Pycelle. Though the old maester now barely spoke, his loyalties had been shaken. Renly's seat was empty. So was Littlefinger's. The power balance had shifted like a storm. Varys leaned in. You hold the city, Lord Stark, but not the hearts. They are still loyal to gold. Ned looked at him, tired. I don't need their hearts. I need their silence, until the truth is rooted. But truth had a cost. Word arrived that Jaime Lannister had ambushed a small northern caravan near the neck. 2 Stark men were slain, and Lady Catelyn taken, though not by Jaime. She had been found by wild scouts and now rode toward King's Landing with Seer Roderick and 100 furious northerners. The fire was growing. Worse still, Tywin Lannister's host was no longer marching. It was splitting. One path toward the Riverlands, to punish the Tullys for sheltering Starks. Another path eastward, the capital. Ned knew they couldn't hold King's Landing by honor alone. So he made the hardest choice yet. He sent Arya away in a quiet stable. Outside the walls, he knelt before her, holding her small face in his calloused hands. You must ride north, with Syrio and 2 of my men, disguised. If anything happens here, you must survive. Do you understand? She looked at him, tears refusing to fall, and Sansa must stay. She's too known, too close to Joffrey. But you can vanish, Arya whispered. I don't want to vanish. I know, he said, hugging her tightly. But you're a wolf, and wolves survive. She left that night, disappearing into the darkness while the city burned with tension. It was the last time he would see her face. 2 days later, Cat arrived at the gates. Her eyes were fire. She embraced Ned but did not smile. They killed my sister's knights, she said. They ride to war like dogs unleashed. Ned told her of Renly, of Littlefinger's capture, of Joffrey's confinement. She only nodded. You did what you had to, but Tywin will not forgive this. Ned stood with her on the balcony above the yard. Let them come, he said. We will not bow to lions. Not any more. But even as he spoke, he knew the cost would be blood. The price of justice in King's Landing was always steep. Winter was coming fast. The air over King's Landing turned cold and thick with unease. Not from the weather, but from the gathering of war. Tywin Lannister's forces had reached the outskirts of the Riverlands, burning villages loyal to Tully and Stark alike. And the letter from Stannis had finally arrived, short, sharp, and proud. I claimed the Iron Throne by right of blood. I march with ships and sword. Those who stand against me shall burn. Ned read it in silence. Stannis would not bend, but he would not charm the realm either. Still, he was the rightful king, and honor left Ned no choice. He made the announcement in the great sept, before lords and ladies and the frightened small folk. Robert Baratheon is dead. His brother Stannis is the true heir. I, Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and protector of the realm, uphold his claim. There were no cheers, just murmurs, fear and then silence. That night, ravens flew across the realm again, but so did knives. A servant was caught trying to slip poison into Seer Barristan's wine. A Lannister guard disappeared, only to be found dead in the river. And rumors swirled that the Queen had escaped the Red Keep. In the garb of a scepter, then came the siege. Tywin Lannister didn't knock on the gates. He sent a message with flaming arrows. The outer farms were set ablaze. Water lines cut. Merchants stopped arriving. The city began to starve before a single battering ram had touched stone. Ned met Tywin's envoy at the gates. Gavin Lannister, stern and blunt. Surrender the boy king. Surrender your claim. Kneel, and you may return to the north with your head Ned said nothing for a long time. Then, "Tell your brother winter is coming, and it comes from the north." Kevin rode off without looking back. Inside, the city began to crack. Food riots, thieves hanged in the square. The small council shrank by cell vanished, likely fled. Varys remained, ghost-like, whispering warnings and half-truths. Then, salvation arrived not from the sea but the sky. A raven from Dragonstone, Stannis had landed. His fleet had broken Lannister's ships off Cracklaw Point. His army was marching toward the capital. Hope bloomed. Ned stood atop the battlements with Seer Barristan, looking out at smoke from distant farms. "When Stannis comes," Barristan said, "he'll expect the city opened." Ned nodded. "Then we'll open it, but not for conquest, for justice." And when Stannis finally reached King's Landing, he found the gates unlocked, the banners of Baratheon flying beside the direwolf. Ned Stark stood beside him not as a subject, but as a shield. The city had not bent. It had endured. Joffrey was taken to the wall by Ned's decree. There he would live as a brother, not a king, far from crowns and poison. Cersei was never found. Some said she escaped across the narrow sea. Others believed she still lived in the crypts of the Red Keep, waiting. Littlefinger died in the black cells. No trial, no last words. Just silence, and Ned Stark. He returned to Winterfell de Weirya, and, haunted by the fire he walked through, but he lived, and in a land where honor was often a death sentence. That was perhaps the rarest victory of all.